Hi everyone, I'm Amber. There are a lot of rumors about me at school, and they are not the most pleasant for me. And all because I have the biggest butt. Do you think this is a good thing? Then listen to my story and you will draw your own conclusions. Do not forget to write your opinion in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Life at school is not easy. There are criteria by which you are evaluated. It's easier for guys. You're either a popular athlete or a quiet loser. But for girls, it's much more complicated. We are judged by character, appearance, even connections. There's a girl in my class. She's the principal's daughter. Everyone avoids her, constantly thinking before talking to her. Yes, maybe they're afraid of her, or they respect her, or they just don't want her to report everything to daddy. Sometimes I envy her because she has a quiet, measured life. I'd like one too, but that's not what I have. You'd be surprised if I told you that I'm popular too, but I'm not one of the 4 local rich people. Nature has given me something very big. The fact is that since birth, I have had a big butt. You will say that there are problems much worse than this. Considering that now many girls work out to try to achieve this, I would like to get rid of it. In general, it all started in childhood. My mother could not find any clothes that fit me because I stupidly couldn't fit into any pants. They got stuck on my buttocks. My mother had to buy pants several sizes larger, sew them at the waist, and shorten the length. She said it was funny, but it wasn't funny to me at all. For this reason, I wore skirts and dresses that there were no problems. I'm not even talking about the underwear that my mother bought for me as a teenager, but sometimes even the skirts didn't save me. My butt bulged out like a sail. I felt like a sheep, which is what they called me at school. The older I got, the more rumors were spread about me. Everyone stared at my butt, turned around to look at me. At those moments, I wanted to sink into the ground. When I was 13, I found a way to deal with this stress. I started eating. I ate everything I could find in the refrigerator at home, ate at school, and ate on the way to school. I especially wanted to eat in public when I was the center of attention. In general, after 2 years, I became even bigger. And all because the calories I ate went exactly where I didn't want them to go. At the age of 15, the school chairs were so small for me that 2 chairs were placed for me as an exception. It was so humiliating, but I couldn't just sit on one. My classmates took photos surreptitiously, distributed them, and discussed them in loud whispers. All I wanted was to be left alone. And only my mother said that this isn't bad, but on the contrary, it's a matter of pride. A woman's curves are very beautiful, she told me, but I didn't think so. A year later, when teenagers reached the peak of the hormonal jump, the guys began to get handsy. They could not pass by me just like that. They always tried to touch or pinch me. Then there were rumors that I had some kind of augmentation surgery, but that's nonsense. Allegedly, they wanted to make sure that it was natural. But no one ever asked me how I felt about it. It was hard carrying a load from behind. After a while, varicose veins appeared on my legs and my mother and I had to treat them. And then I met a guy on the internet. His name was Clay. I didn't post a photo below the waist, and he liked me. He came to my city 2 months later, moved with his family, and came to my school. When I first met him in the hallway, he was so happy, but then he saw my whole body. He slowed down and then said hello, and he couldn't take his eyes off my lower body. Everyone noticed this and started laughing. I couldn't stand it and ran home. I asked my mother to transfer me to another school, but she wouldn't even listen. After all, it was the best school in the city. Then I asked for a reduction operation, but my mother was against me going under the knife. A day later, Clay came up to me again. He apologized 100 times and then offered to take a walk with me. At first, I didn't want to, but he talked me into it. During the walk, I learned that Clay is an amateur photographer. He invited me to participate in a photo session, and before I declined, he showed me some pictures of his work. They were not just normal girls. Some were full, some didn't have a leg, an arm, but they looked just amazing in the pictures. I take these photos so they can see themselves from the outside and understand how beautiful they really are. Just like you. You are more beautiful than any girl I know, and I want you to see it, he told me, and I agreed. We had a photo shoot out in nature. At first, I was embarrassed, but then I relaxed and it gave me confidence. The very next day, the pictures were displayed on his page on social networks. Clay has about 1 million followers, and they were all crazy about my photos. I woke up that day as a celebrity. At school, I was already perceived differently, treated with respect, and from that moment on, I never heard any mockery against me. A few photos changed my life so much. Clay let me know that I was beautiful, much more beautiful than anyone who had ever slandered me. I finally realized this and accepted myself. I was no longer shy about wearing pants. I was no longer shy about my body. I was even proud of it. So, a lot depends on our own perception. And if you doubt yourself, just look from the outside and love yourself. Then the people around you will never dare to offend you again, because you will start to respect and appreciate yourself. Do you agree with my opinion? If so, please write why. And if not, give at least one reason not to love yourself. Hello everyone, my name is Edna. I want to share with you my achievements, especially how I look now and how I looked before. And the thing is that my life has changed dramatically since I devoted myself to sports, and pumped up my ass. Since then, not only have I gained a lot of fans, but I also feel much more confident. And this is important. I used to have a very plain appearance when I was in high school. Naturally, this upset me, and I tried to avoid people in every possible way, so as not to be the center of attention once again. But, unfortunately, the attention miraculously stuck to me, whether I wanted it or not. The thing is, I was thin, very thin, almost like a board, and I'm not exaggerating. I did not have a drop of fat, as well as breasts or buttocks. The only plus was that I had a super flat stomach, but it turns out even too flat doesn't look very nice. And if you're thinking, it's better to be thin than fat, I'll bet. It is ideal to be average and still have breasts and buttocks. By comparison, just so you understand, I didn't have to wear a bra because I didn't have to. Well, when I bought pants, it was a disaster. I took the belt with my pants, but they fell off without it. The smallest size was too big for me. When a strong wind was blowing outside, I was literally swaying. I once thought that if I had an umbrella in my hands, I would definitely be carried away. Once, my mother bought me another pair of pants. I put them on, a cropped sweatshirt, also given by my mother, and went to school. While I was waiting in line at the cafeteria, I saw a photo being taken out of the corner of my eye. It was very awkward. I didn't understand why they were doing it, and my friend said that they probably liked my clothes. That's all. The very next day at school, a photo of my ass with mocking inscriptions spread like a viral message. My butt became like a meme or a joke. Such a flat ass will never get into adventures. If this girl sits on another board, she will get fire. And next to the photo, they wrote, Error 404, not found. This is a nightmare. When I saw these pictures, I was so offended. I ran home in tears, and my mother kept trying to persuade me to go back to school. I didn't want anything. I was angry with myself, with nature for being like this. But my mother said it could be fixed. But how? I asked the question. You think I was born this perfect? We all have something to fix. We are not perfect, she said. And then, for the first time, I heard a story about how much she was teased as a child because of her weight. My mother hid from people and herself for a long time, and then pulled herself together, went on a diet, and went in for sports, and she advised me to sign up for the gym. We even sat together and chose one which would be more convenient for gymming after school. And it was the best decision of my life. Of course, the first days were like hell. Everything hurt, but I had a great coach who helped, inspired, and directed my energy. Coming to the gym, my mother and I clearly described the situation and outlined the goal. I really wanted to pump up my body, chest, and especially ass. The coach understood everything in half a word and prescribed a program of nutrition and physical activity. Everything was normal in the diet because my mother has been on a diet almost all her life. In principle, I had been eating right since birth, but the coach gave me a little more carbohydrates. We even made a menu and started training the next day. On the first day, my mother gave me special pants and a top for training. She warned that it would be insanely hard, but sport hardens not only the body, but also the spirit. And this turned out to be true. I was dying of fatigue and pain in my body for the first month. I even thought at some point that nothing would work out. I didn't want to go to training. I didn't want to squat 100 times in an hour, run, and do a plank, but my mother's words about her rang in my ears, and it was like a lever. I just went to the gym on the machine and seemed to wake up during class. I couldn't wait to see the result, but it was the 3rd or 5th month, and my butt was still flat. I already thought that nothing could help me. The school kept throwing phrases at my back, but the coach was strict and said that he would never let me give up. I kept going to the gym and wore slacks, t-shirts, and hoodies to school. And then somehow, the taunts themselves disappeared, and I went to the gym just because I was used to it. I no longer thought about the result, but began to get a high from the hall. So were the past 1.5 years. And then the school's birthday ball was coming up. All were required to appear beautiful and elegant. I told my mother that I wouldn't go, but she suddenly brought a beautiful box into the room. It was huge. When I opened it, I gasped. There was a soft pink dress in the shape of a fish, a light small train dragged behind, and the corset sparkled from 1,000 stones. It was stunning, but at the same time, too eye-catching. I refused to wear it, but my mother insisted. And you know what? It fit me perfectly. For 1.5 years, I went in wide clothes and didn't even notice that my body had changed. I finally had my breasts, my long-awaited ass. My stomach became inflated, my hips rounded. I looked so feminine and beautiful that I liked myself. There were tears in my eyes, and my mother looked at me with fascinated eyes and clapped her hands for joy. That's when I realized I was getting closer to my goal. I can still work, but overall, I'm not the same Edna that people used to joke about. I proudly put on high heels and went to the ball. It was an exciting moment. My mother did my makeup and hair, called a taxi, and when I arrived, I took a deep breath and went into the gym. It was like a movie. The doors swung open and all eyes were on me. I walked slowly and enjoyed the look of those guys who were mocking me. They all looked at me hungrily and were silent. This was my victory. Victory over them, myself, you will agree. There is nothing more important and more difficult than working with internal complexes. I was invited to 4 dates that night. Can you imagine? And yes, these were the same guys who shamelessly took pictures of me. It was nice to turn them down. I came home excited and happy. I told my mother everything in detail. We laughed for a long time before going to bed, and then I hugged her and thanked her for everything, and most importantly, for inspiring and believing in me. Since then, it's been 3 years. I still go to the gym and eat right. By the way, yes, my butt and chest have become even bigger, and my stomach has abs. Now I boldly wear the clothes I want, and the jeans I was ridiculed in don't fit me. I keep them as an incentive for further work on myself, and I advise you guys not to give up, but to improve. Prove.